Whenever you're ready. My first trade is actually as a high school teacher and wrestling coach. I taught high school English and coached wrestling for 12 years in the public education system in Northern Virginia. I never thought I was going to get into roofing sales. And in 2020, I went through a divorce. That kind of got settled up in 2021, and my attorney basically told me that I had an opportunity. I had the world at my fingertips. I didn't have children at the time, and I could essentially go and do whatever I wanted. If I wanted to continue teaching and coaching, which I had built up a very successful program there, a great community, had an amazing network in Northern Virginia, really good friends. It was frankly something I had built up, was very proud of, and I didn't want to leave. There was a lot of social capital on the table, people that I cared about. When I was a public school teacher, I was probably making $75,000 a year. After taxes, retirement, medical, insurance, all that, I was probably yielding $4,000 a month. So to me, that was like decent money, and the idea of making $10,000 a month was a lot. I remember that I talked to this real estate investor guy. I was talking about the rental properties and everything, and he said, well, what would be your ideal amount of money that you would like to make every month? And I told him $10,000. And he kind of told me, are you sure? $10,000? And I said, yeah, if I made $10,000 a month, I could live an amazing life. Because keep in mind, I was kind of living off of $4,000 a month at the time in DC. My perspective on money wasn't great because I had never made it and I didn't grow up with money. My parents were just a middle-class family. We weren't rich. We definitely weren't poor, but we never had just a ton of disposable income to do whatever we wanted with it. So I didn't have a big substantial reference point on money, and money's never really been like a major motivator for me anyways. That was kind of my baseline perspective on things. And I had mulled over 2021, do I want to stay in Washington, D.C. or do I want to move? And I had decided that I wanted to make a move. I was 33 at the time, so I knew I had a lot left in me to build something else. I didn't know what that was going to be. I started looking around the country as to where I might want to go, and I ended up choosing Phoenix, Arizona. So on August 1st of 2022, I bought my one-way plane ticket. I loaded everything up. I landed in Phoenix, Arizona on August 1st, 2022. That was the start of this new adventure. Thing was that I didn't know what I was gonna do out here, so I was really piecing a lot of things together on the fly. I was smart enough to have done what was called a house hack, which is a great way to get into a home and cover the mortgage through like renting different rooms out and stuff. So I had studied that, and I was essentially house hacking, which helped me with my budget a lot. But I was working a bunch of side jobs, essentially like odd jobs. I was working at Costco as a stocker from 4 to 6 a.m., waiting tables. I was bar backing, working at a holistic health center. These are all like minimum wage jobs. So I was working like 3 or 4 of those at a time while learning this new city. That was the move that I had made. That was the risk that I had made to create a new life, essentially. Moving to Phoenix, it was an adventure, but it was a business trip. It was something that I took incredibly serious because I knew my margin for error at 34 years old was pretty small. As a former English teacher, I loved to read and things like that. And there was a Chinese philosopher named Sun Tzu who had this concept. It's thousands of years old, but it's called death ground. What he said was, if he put his soldiers on death ground, meaning that if they didn't have an opportunity to retreat, then their likelihood of winning it was substantially higher. Well, I applied that same principle to my own life by literally uprooting myself, moving to an entirely new city. And I wrote that down. I had it on my bathroom mirror. That was what I was living by, not even knowing what I was going to do out here. What I knew is that if I lived that, I kept my mind, kept my body in good shape, and put myself in the right position, then potentially the right opportunity would come across. And if I capitalized on that opportunity and I was ready to capitalize on that opportunity, then I could essentially change my life. And I had a lot of friends in DC who had done very well for themselves. They had made good money, they're good people. I just always asked myself, why can't I make that? So in October of 2022, I met my future business partner, Casey Carlson, at a fundraiser for a school that I was working with out here and doing some consulting with, and I had some good friends that were running the school. Initially, we had just connected on like real estate stuff. He's got a pretty substantial real estate portfolio, and I wanted to pick his brain on that. So I was running deals by him, trying to basically get him to like invest with me on these properties. And we got to know each other pretty well, probably over the course of like 3 or 4 months. We were sitting down at Berdinia's coffee shop in Scottsdale one day, and he said, "I'm thinking about starting up a roofing company. What do you think about that?" And I said, "Well, that sounds interesting," and he was just explaining, roofing is a protected industry. It's a home service. People need roofs. Regardless of what's going on with the economy, people are still going to need roofs. So it's a good industry. It's a sustainable industry to be in. It made a lot of sense to me. Remember, at this time, I'm probably working 60, 70 hours a week on like 3 different jobs. So taking a leap at this point, I'm ready to take that leap. Like, I'm ready to do that. Mentally, physically, I'm ready to do that. He said, "Well, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna kick it off. If you want in, let me know, but here's your role. Your role in the company is going to be getting it off the ground in a guerrilla fashion, door to door." But knocking doors sounded a lot better to me than working in service-based industries like restaurants, Costco, stuff like that. There's no way out. What am I gonna do? Eventually work myself up and be a manager or something? I mean, that didn't even really sound appealing to me at all. So I just said, all right, let's do it. And March 14th, when I started knocking doors, I had a 2001 Toyota Tacoma. It didn't have air conditioning. I had no idea what I was looking for in terms of qualifying roofs. I didn't know anything about roofing. I didn't know about insurance claims. I didn't know what constituted an insurance claim. I really had no idea. So I had to basically teach myself how to sell roofs. And mind you, that time of year, it started to get pretty hot. So it was one of the hottest summers on record in Phoenix, I believe. It was my first summer knocking doors, and I just hit the ground running and had to learn on the fly. It was definitely a weird proposition to go and like knock on someone's door to sell them a roof. Psychologically, I had to overcome that. My first year in roofing sales, I was hyper-focused. Nothing else mattered. That's all I did. Devote every ounce of time, energy to learning this craft. And I knew that there were people that were being successful at it because I saw it around, and I was like, I can learn this. It's not rocket science. Roofing is not rocket science. It's very, very simple industry. So I just got hyper-focused. I put my nose down essentially for 12 months. When I came out of the other end, I did sell over $3 million my first year as we started the company. Lots of ups and downs, lots of highs, lots of lows, but I just took every repetition as a learning experience. Didn't get too high on the highs and I didn't get too low. I just really learned how to keep a solid middle ground and equilibrium through that first year, and that's what made the difference. Staying mentally composed and consistency was the name of the game. The whole first year was just, I want to get this skill set down and I want to get it down quick. I wasn't even paying attention to my numbers or paying attention to any of that. It was just nose down, consistency, learning the trade, learning the craft, and it paid out. I ended up selling $3 million in year 1. What I learned in that first year is that sales was really just teaching in disguise. It really involved just educating homeowners on what the state of their roof was and what their options were to remedy the situation if they were actually ready to remedy the situation. I learned to take a little bit of a different approach, which was, let me build trust with this person. My intentions are good. My intentions are pure. I am committed to this individual and helping them out. So let me educate them on what's going on in their roofing system and then present some options that might be viable. So I never looked at it like sales. I never looked at it like I'm out here to sell somebody something. It was really just building credibility at the door, trust at the door, and presenting options. It just so happens that door to door is the way that I did it. I really can't even imagine selling anything else that's not door to door. I can't imagine picking up a phone and calling someone. Door to door sales is a highly, highly effective way to get in front of prospects, to get in front of homeowners, to get in front of people that need a service. And if you do it right and you do it in a way that builds credibility and builds trust, you're going to do well. You're going to do really well. And that's the approach that I took, and it really paid off in year 1 and of course in year 2. I think that with any sort of craft, what's the philosophy behind why you do what you do. Why are you doing what you do? And what is going to fuel you to do what you do on a daily basis? Mine was, I can't retreat. I'm going to make this work. I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to put myself in the right position to win. I don't wake up in the morning and think about deals. I don't wake up in the morning and think about that. When I wake up in the morning, I think about, this is why I'm here. This is what I can do to achieve my goals. And that is knock doors, meet homeowners, generate leads, and there's no retreating from that. And that was absolutely essential to the success that I saw early on, because door to door can be hard. Like, it can be difficult. It's not easy, but in any industry where you can yield $250,000 plus a year in income, it's not going to be easy. There's no shortcuts. It's take the stairs or take nothing. One of the beautiful things about roofing sales is it's a highly competitive industry. I want to be the best that I can possibly be in this industry. That's a highly motivating thing for me. You hear it a lot in any sort of outside sales. People always say, well, you need to have a why that's bigger than your how. You need to have a why. You need to have a why. So my why starting out was, well, I want to build a sustainable life for myself. I want to be successful in something. I want to be the best at something. And I want to have freedom. Essentially, that's where it was, because I wasn't free at the time. If you're working the kind of jobs that I was working, you're not a free man. And I wanted to be free. So that was really my why starting out. Ironically, it's nice to have money coming in, more money than I ever thought I would make, that's for sure. But in terms of, do I feel more comfortable now? Do I feel less pressure? No, I don't. I still feel the same amount of pressure because I've just gotten very comfortable feeling that. I'm not where I want to be yet, so I still wake up with that rookie mentality every day. What has changed is my financial situation, which is really nice because you see that when you do this and you do it the right way and you do it consistently, you can inevitably change your financial situation in a very, very short period of time. What's very common in this industry is that $100,000 is a good living, right? I mean, how many people in the United States, I'm sure there's stats on this, make like 6 figures a year. But in roofing, it's pretty simple to make $100,000 in roofing sales. In fact, I feel like that's like the baseline. It's like you should at least make 100 grand. If it's that simple to make $100,000, then let me shoot for $500,000. So if you're someone who's stuck, in a career or a situation that doesn't kind of fire you up and you kind of feel like you're going through the motions, the beautiful part about life is that we have choices, we can make decisions, and we can change the trajectory of our future with a very simple decision. I share this story because I don't think that I'm special. I don't think I've done something that requires a special talent. I don't believe that at all. I think it would be very simple for someone to replicate what I've done. Simple, not easy, but simple. So if you're ready to work hard, learn fast, and surround yourself with people who are on that trajectory, click the link below. I will give you the tools, give you the playbook. All you gotta do really is show up, be coachable, be ready to learn, because the life that you want is much closer to reality than you think it is.